Hi. Normally when I speak about government services, there's 20 people in the room. Nobody is interested about that, usually. But over the last year, what we have seen, there's a lot more interest from various countries, various groups of people, of what type of things we can offer for governments and government services solutions by using blockchain. But I'll start quickly by introducing the company and what we do. I mean, originally we started in 2010, 11. We were some of the first miners. I guess everybody knows what mining is by today. Then we started to design our own microchips and servers. And a couple of years ago, we realized that there's a huge value of using the actual blockchain technology by offering services to enterprises and governments. So that's one of the reasons I'm here. And we have a platform in our software division that is called Exonum, and we use that as the main platform for building blockchain solutions for governments. We are located all over the world. We have roughly 350 people from San Francisco to Hong Kong, based in Amsterdam, etc. So originally I had a few slides about blockchain, but I guess for this audience I don't think I need to explain what blockchain is. So we'll just move from that and to some interesting aspects and advantages of it. And I want to emphasize just one part, and that is trust. We talk a lot about immutability and transparency and auditing, etc. But to me, transparency and trust are some of the two most interesting elements that attract attention of the governments. Because if you look at some of the recent reports, 57% of the people in the world do not trust their governments. Whether we like it or not, of course, in some countries it's more or less. 57%, that's more than half. So how do you solve that? By building trust and increasing transparency. And again, every time we talk about issues facing digital economy as well, here you see again, trust and lack of transparency. It's all over the place, and we hear this in the news, we see this in daily life, etc. In fact, when we talk about blockchain solutions in governments, if you read the latest report that was put together by G20, the G20 countries, in the report it says that sooner or later, within the next 10 to 15 years, all of the government structures will use, one way or another, will use blockchain in their services. And that's where our journey began about a year ago. We started a pilot project in the Republic of Georgia, where I'm originally from, and we applied it to land registries, because in some countries, you may not have it in Poland or in other sort of first world countries, but in some countries you may have a piece of land and you may have 3 or 4 people who have a certificate for that piece of land. And as unbelievable as it sounds, it's true. So we started that, and that turned out then to be a full-scale project, and now we do that project in various other countries altogether. We're now 4 or 5 countries, and we do pilots in many more, and I believe that will continue because there's a huge interest in that. Basically what happens is traditionally people would go to some sort of government building or a hall, and they'd have to wait in line and get some paper copy, and then if you lose a copy, you need to go back and get another copy, etc. This way, the procedure takes 10 to 15 minutes to register a piece of land or property, and it's all electronically done, and you don't need to have a piece of paper to keep in your pocket or in your files. So it's a very quick and cost-effective procedure. Also, then we started thinking, well, how else we could apply blockchain in other government services. And by the way, that little sign in the middle, that's the logo of Exonum. That's the platform that we use to apply these solutions. So how else we could use these services? We started talking about healthcare. For instance, today in the majority of medical institutions, they do not share medical data of patients amongst each other. And it has to be regulated, personal data, etc. We understand. But just imagine for a second that when somebody calls an ambulance, the first ambulance arrives and they spend 20 to 30 minutes just asking you who you are, your phone number, what's hurting, etc., etc. Imagine if on their way to you, they already have all that data. So they save 20 minutes, and basically that is saving people's lives. We have one pilot project going in this area, and I believe there will be more interest in that going forward. Identification, I guess you have heard during this conference a lot about this. There's a project in the United Nations, there's a project in Europe, in the United States. Everybody's working on ID, electronic, telephone, whatever form there will be. So I'm not going to stop too much on that, because there's some more interesting things that I will talk about. Supply chain. I mean, in government supply chain, there's usually a lot of risks. Putting up bank guarantees, people not paying, or quality of the products delivered is not up to standards, and the contracts fall apart, etc., etc. So we're now introducing a smart contract system for that. And I'm not using smart contracts as just a buzzword. I mean, it's a system that tracks it from the producer all the way to the receiver of the goods or services, and everything is basically triggered automatically, where quality control, payments, and bank guarantees are not necessary, and they are fully released. So just imagine how much capital and the amount of capital that is today locked up in bank guarantees across the globe because of these contractual obligations. So if that is released, that's just another layer of cash and reserves that can be applied in the economy. Insurance, I mean, that's another very interesting part, because I'm sure you heard about hurricanes that took place in Puerto Rico recently, and believe it or not, for those people who lost their homes, it sometimes takes 2 to 3 years to get their money from the insurance companies. And whether they like it or not, that's the way it is. And basically people are homeless during this entire time. And we've tied up and made a partnership with a company called Risk Cooperative, based out of Washington, D.C., to streamline this entire process, where it wouldn't take 2.5 years for someone to get their money for the property they lost. And it's still in the pilot stage, but we believe this is a very interesting project going forward, and a lot of entities are interested in as well. It basically shortens the time by 20-fold by just applying blockchain, so that you don't have to wait for inspectors to come in, whether you lost your property or not, although you can just see on TV that everybody's homes were destroyed, but you still need an official report. So anyhow, insurance, very interesting pilot. E-auctions, that was a service we launched 2 months ago in the Ukraine. Ukraine faced some problems with corruption and lack of transparency, etc., etc. So Ministry of Justice came to us and they said, listen, we have these electronic auctions for selling repossessed or government-owned property, and everybody is accusing us that we are channeling money somewhere else. So we put the entire electronic auction on the blockchain. So now everybody who places a bid or wins a bid, or whatever price it was, or what time they placed the bid, everything is recorded. So no one can blame the government entity now, that they don't trust them and there's a corruption going on, because everything is now recorded and everything is electronically available. And now we are expanding that project into a few other countries. I hear your
my
footsteps behind me.
There we go.
I can talk about this for hours, literally. Auditing, and I have 2 seconds, usually 30 seconds. Usually in auditing, if you have ever faced auditors in your office, you have 30 people coming in for a month, they disrupt everything that's happening, and you cannot do your job. We have a project where applying blockchain, you just need one auditor once a month who randomly checks 10, 20 documents, and if everything is in order, life is good. So thank you very much.